What's going on, guys? It is the Zoomer Value Investor here to talk to you guys today about what I believe are two stocks that you guys need to really have on your watch list here in April of 2023. Before we get into the two stock holdings I really want to talk about, let's talk about the general health of the market at this time. There's been a little bit of a relief rally lately, and it's brought the SPY back up to a level decently above 400 here. If you actually look back around the past year on the SPY, this is actually around a triple top pattern here. And we actually have our fear and greed index starting to kick into the greed section. It's definitely not so much further back into the fear-oriented section anymore. One thing I'm sure you guys are starting to notice on this channel is that when we are more in a greedy environment, I'm not putting as many stock holdings on these monthly update videos. And that's because I'm not buying as many stocks in an environment like that. I'm actually a little bit more of a net seller of stocks in this environment, and for the two stocks that I am talking about in this video, I'm only talking about just those two for a reason. And then not to mention we're coming up on May, which is of course infamous as a sell in May, go away type of month where the stock market does not like to do well in May. Personally, I've taken this time to take up a little bit of cash in the portfolio, use cash on other things I want to do in my life, and just enjoying spending money elsewhere. With that being said about my hesitancy as a value investor in the current market, I'm just making the point the risk reward is not as good as it has been in the past few months, and I as a value investor who was aggressively buying stock over the course of the past year, especially when the S&P 500 was at critical resistance levels of 360, 380. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me and my investing style to be buying a ton of stock here at this time. But let's get into these two holdings and let me talk about why they're on this list. And I'm actually buying one of these two stocks right now. So the first stock I want to talk about is Cleanspark, CLSK. Cleanspark is actually one of the first companies I talked about here on this monthly video series. Back when I was originally talking about Cleanspark in my full detailed due diligence video, I mentioned really the biggest pitfall of this high risk, high reward investment. The biggest pitfall it would have would be running into a situation where Bitcoin would be at a low price, about the 10 to 12K range, or even lower than that for a period of years on end. If that were to happen, it would effectively choke out Cleanspark's ability to make money and generate cash and sustain its valuation. Again, it would just be like choking it from the faucet itself, right? And that company, just the whole idea and the whole places it could go and the possibility of it multiplying. I said it could possibly become a 40x. I still believe that. The possibility of that happening would just be gonzo. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is not what has appeared to plan out. We actually appear to have some kind of a strong relief rally here in the crypto markets. About 70% gains off the lows here for Bitcoin. Bitcoin jumped from a low price of 16K. It's now sustaining a price around 28K, heading to 30K. And here's the interesting thing about Cleanspark. Yes, Cleanspark is on a rally. It has rallied off of its respective lows as well. And I was buying this stock all the way down to the lows. However, it didn't rally nearly as hard as Bitcoin itself, even though it is technically a leveraged play on Bitcoin. And I, of course, explained this in the video. It has to do with Cleanspark being a Bitcoin mining company. At the rate they're able to produce cash, considering they're mining 598 Bitcoin last month in the month of March, and that's a steadily gaining rate. That's even more than when I talked about it in my original full-length due diligence videos many months ago. They weren't mining quite that much, around 600 Bitcoin. So they're effectively mining more coin. Also, Bitcoin itself is worth more, so this company is just producing more and more cash. So Cleanspark is the stock I am still buying and still dollar cost averaging into. I actually am currently averaging up on this stock, and I as a value investor hate averaging up. I'd rather just really sit there with my hands, just chilling, not really too worried about it, waiting for the stock to come back at or below my cost basis. But I'm comfortable averaging up on Cleanspark because the story has changed for the better for this stock. So the value arbitrage, I think, is still great. The idea of looking at it as a leverage play on Bitcoin, I explained in my short video, is still great because the company is mining more coin and the price of coin has only gone up. So all of the risk of bankruptcy and all of things of that nature have been severely diminished for Cleanspark, as well as the valuation arbitrage still remains high because it's not like Cleanspark, 200% X'd as Bitcoin had this relief rally of 70%. No, Cleanspark only got like a 50-60% gain or so during that relief rally. Not quite the arbitrage looking for. I still believe that arbitrage of Cleanspark getting the value discovery and accelerating, for possibly like a 10x to 40x gain, really realizing its value. Again, this is a company with a tangible book value per share, $9 or more, on a $2 stock, $2.50. And if you're ever curious about, just how valuable of a company Cleanspark is, just keep in mind their cost of revenues are only about like a quarter to a third of what they're actually doing to actually mine these coin. And not only that, just calculate out, right? So 598 Bitcoin mined in a month times 28,000. That's impressive revenues on a company whose market cap is only like 100 to 200 million right now. Effectively, you're talking about a company that can produce an amount of cash where they could just buy back their own market cap within like a year of just doing their current business. Not even growing their mining operation, which they've steadily done the past few months. The next company I really want to talk about is AbCellera Biologics, ABCL, on the stock market exchange. The reason why I really want to talk about AbCellera is AbCellera's actually hit a critical resistance low here around $7. It's held this resistance historically, but it's actually not the lows. The recent lows came in around 580 on this stock, so I'm really watching for around that range to start to load the boat on this one. But I'm not adverse to the idea of dollar cost averaging into this position again at these recent lows here around $7. This is of course a company I own with a small position. However, I don't have this nowhere near a core holding allocation in my portfolio. However, if that 580 low comes right back, I'd be very tempted to make this a core holding, very much so. The reason why is because I really do believe in this company. I think they've got a great setup in a really exciting industry. I've explained in high detail in 2 videos in particular of why I really believe in AbCellera Biologics. They're doing what is called the AI drug discovery operation. Now, that is that is what's supposedly going to be a huge business in the future. AI drug discovery is not so much of a here and now industry, it's very much of a future and forward-looking industry. However, I really do believe that with technology and with the way things are going with big data and things of that nature, of course, I certainly believe that AI drug discovery is going to be a thing, and AbCellera is looking to really be very much a company at the helm of that. They've already partnered with a lucrative amount of healthcare companies, one of the most significant ones being Eli Lilly, and they actually made a really, really famous, really useful drug during the COVID-19 crisis called bamlanivimab, which is a very effective antibody for fighting COVID-19. Now, recently, the revenues were kind of cut off from AbCellera because bamlanivimab was taken and put into the vault as far as the FDA is concerned, and the FDA essentially looked around and said, we don't want to play with you anymore, bamlanivimab. We don't think that you're the optimal COVID-19 treatment at this time. So they kind of push alternative treatments. They don't push bamlanivimab so much anymore. But that doesn't mean that AbCellera itself is like a bad company. This is still, of course, very much a future and forward-looking play, and nothing essentially has changed about the story except for this one event. Of course, it would have been a great time to sell on this news, but you can't always sell the news in the stock market and get away with it. The very much the opposite could have happened. Like if you sold this stock around the $12, $13 range, which is around where my personal cost basis is, around when that news came out, then you run the risk of the stock rallies to $20, $30, $40 in the near term, becomes like a generational investment, etc., and you sold out, at like $10, $12. Of course, now the stock sits at $7, so I personally do think it's a decent time to accumulate a position. Of course, I will never ever be offering financial advice on this channel. Everything is just my personal amateur opinion. This company just checks so many different boxes. You're talking about a low debt company. As Peter Lynch says, it's basically impossible to go bankrupt if you have no debt. So it looks like a very, very high upside situation here. Not only that, you're talking about a company where, a lot of the team is involved here. CEO has high ownership at 20%, as well as the team, has incentive for the company to do well. High institutional ownership here. Bailey Gifford owns around 7% of the company. BlackRock owns close to 5% of the company. Voya Investment Management owns around 4%, and the Baker Bros, who are really famous the Baker Bros are very famous biotech investors, and they own around 3.6% of this company. Not only that, but Peter Thiel, he's also on the board of directors here at AbCellera Biologics, and Peter Thiel, of course, was a very famous investor, been involved in companies such as PayPal with Elon Musk. Peter Thiel's also been involved in the very famous another big data company called Palantir. Peter Thiel on the board, he owns around 1 to 2% of the company, I believe. So ladies and gentlemen, when I put a lot of the pieces together here, the low debt, the high upside industry, the already proven track record they kind of have with the CV-19 crisis, the high institutional ownership here, and just the fact that AbCellera is at technical lows here does make it very attractive to me as a value investor. And if I want to put one last note on the video, when I look at stocks like Cleanspark, AbCellera, some of the highest risk, highest reward stocks I've ever talked about here on this channel. If you're looking at the longer term, 5 to 10 years out, one thing I really want to point out is that in a market like this, where I personally am not looking to, buy a ton of stocks after being a huge buyer of stocks, this past year, I do want to take a little bit more risk with the little bits of money that I'm maybe putting into the market. So, just keep in mind that these are two of the highest risk, highest reward stocks I've ever talked about here on my channel. And that if that's not your thing so much, I have videos on stocks like Berkshire Hathaway, the esteemed Warren Buffett conglomerate. I have videos about other great value stocks like Walgreens or Micron, a semiconductor company who I believe trades at a great value. So feel free to check those out on my channel if you are interested. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment, anything on your mind about these markets. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Peace.